Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to Season 6 of Every Version Ever. As you probably know, Alice in Wonderland has been a huge part of this series since the beginning. This podcast spun out of the original series on my main YouTube channel, Wonderland Wednesday, where I tried, and am still trying, to review every version of Alice in Wonderland that's ever been made. At this point, I question whether or not I will ever reach the end. Anyway, last year I took Wonderland Wednesday and turned it into a full-fledged standalone podcast. It's still exclusive to YouTube, but I'm hoping at some point YouTube makes it possible to send out an RSS feed like a normal podcast. But expanding Wonderland Wednesday into a podcast served two purposes. One, the audience on my original channel just really loves Alice in Wonderland. They're always happy for more. And two, those episodes easily double as episodes of Every Version Ever, so all last year I've been slowly building up a cushion of episodes to hopefully cut down on gaps in my release schedule here. I have a lot of stories I really want to get to in 2025, so I'm hoping this strategy helps with that. So today we're kicking off the season with my two main Wonderland Wednesday guests, my cousin Sarah, who's been doing this with me since basically the beginning back in 2017, as well as Jenna, aka Phantomwise, who has basically become the official, unofficial co-host of Wonderland Wednesday. Her vast stores of Alice knowledge are unmatched, and she is my go-to for any Alice questions I might have. Today, the three of us are talking once again about Disney's Alice in Wonderland. You'd think with two episodes about this movie back in 2022 we'd have exhausted this well, but we have not. Today we're specifically talking about Disney's promotional push surrounding the release of this film, specifically 3 TV specials he made to promote it. We'll kick this episode off talking about Operation Wonderland, then we'll move on to 1 Hour in Wonderland, and end with a special episode of The Fred Waring Show dedicated to the soundtrack of Alice in Wonderland.
So I don't really know what this is for. It feels like it's kind of like for television, but also it feels like maybe not.
It felt to me like a short version of The Reluctant Dragon, except less cheesy and less annoying.
Yeah,
They make it look like such a fun, magical place to work, and maybe it was to an extent, but like that seemed like a veneer.
well, I mean,
Like
that's kind of everything Walt did for TV promotion was very fake. Um,
I'm
like
sure
for
there.
instance, he shows his little train going everywhere, and that clearly wasn't, the way it actually was set up.
I wondered about that because I was thinking he had it just kind of going around outside, but it looked like it went through the whole studio.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it goes on like studio streets and stuff, and obviously they need to drive on those streets. So he did not actually, as far as I know, he only had the train set up at his home. I guess sometimes he also had it at the studio, but it was more like promotion than it actually was a way to get around.
Mm-hmm.
Walt was a storyteller. He liked to portray himself as eccentric because the eccentric uncle who tells you stories, shows you cool stuff.
But if you like to portray yourself as eccentric, aren't you actually eccentric?
I mean, fair point.
People who aren't eccentric, I don't know how much they actually want to be perceived that way. I don't know. Some, I suppose, some do. Some do. I shouldn't.
Yeah, he did like exaggerate, I guess, like you could say that. Like, for instance, using the train to get everywhere in this short, or my favorite example of him doing something really weird is so at Disneyland, there's like a petrified tree stump that's like thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And when they added this to Disneyland, he said that he originally gave it to Lily, his wife, and she decided to give it to Disneyland, the implication that she didn't want a tree stump. So she gave, like kind of a funny story, like, I got you a tree stump. She's like, I will give it to Disneyland. How about that?
If anybody wants to,
yeah.
could I just say to the viewers, if anybody wants to give me an ancient petrified tree stump that is within the legal parameters, I will accept it.
You can, because the place he bought it from still exists. But but that's actually the interesting thing was this story was debunked when it came out, like the receipts and the people he bought it from. So when Walt went there, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a petrified forest, and they sell tree stumps and artifacts you could buy. And he was looking for a big one. And he said it was for Disneyland from the very beginning. and Lily wasn't involved with the process at all. It was she just agreed to have it be part of the story. So it's just kind of you like to quote unquote storytell, and I feel like this is one of those instances where he's like, I'm eccentric and I want people to think I'm even more eccentric, so I'm going to make it like I have this miniature train going throughout the studio very impractically. um, so he didn't actually do this.
Well,
I mean, yeah, he would set it up, but not all the time.
the more magical and fun you can make it look, aren't you going to sell a product better? And don't you want to sell the product after? Yeah, especially
Yeah,
after you
exactly.
beat down that foreign version. I don't know.
Well, not yet. This would have been right before beating it down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you gotta market yourself. Look how magical we
Yeah.
are.
By my
But
magic, not somebody else's magic. And I could see, like, part of me does feel empathetic towards him over that,
yeah, I
but
mean it's a complicated situation, but yeah, I don't think you need to do anything, to be honest. I think if he had just let it run, no, I think everybody would have chosen to see Disney anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if I was there, I would have seen both because that would have been interesting because I like seeing different versions of things, but everyone is not
Yeah,
me. They'll usually pick one or the other.
yeah, I think most people would have gone with the Disney version, especially for children if they have children with them.
Hmm.
mm,
Name recognition, the animation. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Bunyan Alice, I think, could be a little scary for kids. Um, but anyway,
well, we haven't gotten into
yeah,
the building yet.
yeah, yeah. So let's ride the train into the building.
Well, I was going to ask you if you knew anything about the narrator, James Melton.
I actually do not. Do you know
'Cause
anything?
I looked him up. He was a singer, and I thought it was interesting that he narrates as if he's writing a letter to someone named Margot.
Yeah, I was interested in that too, but I wasn't really sure what the behind the scenes is.
Well, on Wikipedia, it didn't have a wife listed at all, but on IMDb, it looked like maybe he was married to someone named Marjorie Barclay McClure.
Oh,
So I was wondering if maybe Margot was a nickname for this Marjorie. I don't know.
maybe.
That aside, Margot's kind of a cool name, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
I'm realizing that there's not a lot I know about this short. And it's kind of like why would I though? Because it's just this little thing. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. Oh, okay. You know what? Actually, I just looked it up on IMDb and someone actually gives us the context in a review.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it's a promotional film. It was intended for television, which makes sense. And it was first broadcast on the Fourth Star Review in June of 1951. In it, James Melton narrates explaining to his daughter how Walt Disney gave him the tour of the Disney production facilities,
Oh, okay.
including the talent involved in making the feature film. So that makes a bit more sense. I'm not sure why Disney chose to obscure the fact that it was Ford Star Review. Maybe they couldn't get permission to use Ford's name, maybe to because this was released as part of their DVD set.
Hmm.
That would be my guess, maybe. Or why not avoid having to ask another company for permission when you could just do it without them?
Was there a hope? This is speculation. Was there a hope that this bit could be used on more than one program? I don't know.
Maybe that's also possible. Because I feel like the narrator doesn't add anything at all. Could probably take him out and put someone else in.
Yeah, not really, because the person talking, like there's somebody on screen, but they never talk on screen, I don't think.
They
Yeah,
never show his face.
yeah.
Did they not ever show
I
his
don't think
face?
so. They did at least show the back of his leg at one point and like part
Ah,
of his side. I don't know.
I thought you saw somebody riding with Walt Disney at one point, and I just assumed that that was supposed to be the narrator, but I don't know that for sure. I was just guessing.
maybe. I don't know. Like the only thing that even really gives it away as something else is that that the narrator says Margot. I think otherwise you just assume it's promotional short. Like,
Hmm. And I didn't even realize that the narrator was talking to someone right away. I was like halfway through, and I noticed he said Margot. I was like, huh? And then he said it again
yeah,
later. I was like, who's this Margot?
be well known to the people of the time.
Maybe
Well, at
because
least people
this
watching the
was
program.
yeah, it could be because this was a singer. Like it was somebody who was big in, I guess, the pop music scene in the 20s and 30s. So maybe they would have known who this was a lot more than we today know who he is.
I think also at the time, people were more loyal watchers or listeners of like radios and TV shows.
Hmm.
So, if you're watching the Ford Star Review, you probably had already been watching it weeks prior, and maybe you knew the singer and that he had a daughter.
That's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like soap opera. You know, soap operas essentially were kind of the same thing where you had a company sponsoring a show.
Hmm.
People are still very loyal listeners to soap opera or watchers of soap operas. I never got into it.
Do you know anyone who is? Do they admit
No, but
it?
they exist apparently.
I mean, they're still making them, so somebody has to be watching them
Somebody's
because if
watching
nobody was
them.
watching them, they'd stop making them.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I don't think I've ever known anyone who has been into soap operas.
I think, yeah, I feel like it's probably a situation where these people who watch them just won't admit that they watch them.
I think that my mother might have been.
Oh
I saw snippets, but you go okay, side note. When my mother worked at the nursing home in break room with the elderly people discussing whatever that I won't mention anyway, on the TV was this soap opera, and there was this lovely woman on there named Shayna, and that's how my sister got named Shayna. She was named after a soap opera character. So anyway, total rabbit trail. Total and it suits her. Like, yeah. Anyway, total rabbit trail. Nobody knows what this is gonna know what this short is about yet. Why we might want to
yeah, might want to continue.
They were in the studio doing studio stuff. That's basically what this is. A lot with a little train thrown in.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like Jonathan said earlier, it's like the Reluctant Dragon, but shorter and catered to Alice.
It's educational because you're seeing how they do some of the animation work,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's a little preview of the Walrus and the Carpenter and Tweedledee and Tweedledum and the Tea
Garden of
Parties.
Flowers.
Oh yeah, and the Tea Party scene. So yeah, really, if you're wanting to pull people in, one thing. Am I jumping too far ahead if I talk about the end?
No.
So it's like when they're talking. I feel like for the people who hate spoilers, them showing the end.
I thought I even wrote that in my notes.
Yes. Like with them showing her chasing after Alice and her like nearly waking up. Like that's against the rules.
I wrote like they must not have cared too much about spoilers.
They were just like, everyone knows the story.
I'm not
Yeah.
rabid about spoilers the way some people are. You know, I'm more okay with knowing things than probably a lot of people. I don't know. But with that was no.
It was too much of the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I've noticed that problem with like movie advertising in general with like trailers. Sometimes I avoid watching trailers for movies I actually want to watch because I feel like they give away way too much.
I have been lately too. What was it?
Yeah.
Sing 2. Because I like the Illumination, like they're fine. But like the Sing
Mhm.
movie, I really liked the first one. So I was excited that they were making a second one. So I looked it up. I felt like I watched the entire movie in 2 minutes. I was so annoyed. And after that, I've kind of stayed away from a lot of trailers because I've noticed it with more, like that was the most egregious one, but I've noticed it with a lot more trailers recently. It's like they give way too much away. So I usually avoid them.
I feel like that's always been a problem though, like just in general, is they want to bring you in so they'll show you like a good joke or whatever or good, you know,
but it should be
a
just
highlight.
enough. It should be
Yeah.
just enough to tantalize you. Like, what does happen? And wow, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you watch the film and it's like, oh, they literally gave out all the cool stuff already in the trailer. I didn't have to watch it. Yeah, I've noticed that problem a lot. The last few trailers that I felt were really good were like from Barbie, and those were trailers that actually
And
made
they
me
were
want to
ones
watch the
that didn't
movie.
give too much away. Because with
Yeah,
Barbie, the main trailer that they were showing was the
Space Odyssey.
2001
Yeah,
Space Odyssey with the giant Barbie.
yeah. And I was like, well, this is perfect. Because yeah, it is that way
Hmm.
in the film, but it works perfectly as a trailer, and it doesn't give away the whole movie.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I don't know. There's a lost art to trailers, I think, and they just give everything away. But it
Hmm.
has always kind of been a problem where promotional material just like we just want to get butts and seats. We don't really care about whether we spoil anything.
And I feel like that was the thought process behind a lot of the promotional stuff we're going to be talking about. They
Yeah,
gave a lot of stuff away, and it just felt like I know it wasn't the entire movie, but because we're talking about three different things, but I thought between the three, we watched a whole lot of the movie.
Mm.
I feel like at least for me, with this Operation Wonderland, I feel like the Mad Tea Party is like one of the best parts of the Disney Alice, and that's where I was kind of like, wow, this is a lot. They're giving us a lot here. I
Hmm.
mean, they did cut out a little bit, but it's not like they essentially gave us the best parts of it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay.
Well, part of
Do
that
you
too
even
is
need to see it?
well, the people aren't seeing it in Technicolor,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, it was a big deal to go see it in color.
sure.
Definitely. I mean, the other one we'll watch, Kathy makes a comment about that. Like, you won't be seeing it in the beautiful Technicolor.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which, speaking of Catherine, I love her in this too. She's very, I don't know, she's just very pretty and
It's very
um,
poised.
yeah, just very elegant, even, I would say.
I
Like,
liked how much she was involved with all the promotional stuff.
yeah,
You could tell she really liked being there.
yeah. I love that they gave her a special costume for promotion with the
Hmm.
ruffle.
Yeah.
It's like she was a novelty, the little English girl.
Yeah, they kept referring her to her as that in more than one of these promotional things.
I feel like, okay, because I think that has partly to do with Walt's own choice of her, because he struggled a bit with, choosing an Alice. Like before settling on Catherine Beaumont, he was going to go with Margaret O'Brien, I think is her name.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
you probably know her, right?
oh yeah,
yeah.
Tootie
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Beth.
And then he was going to go with, that didn't work out because her mom wanted more money. Um, yeah,
Oh, oh,
Margaret recalls actually hearing them yell at each other. But I don't know,
wow. Oh, now you're getting into the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Um, and then the girl
she
after
was,
that, yeah, Walt was like, okay, we're not going to Margaret. But what do you have to say?
oh, I'm just, oh, now I'm gonna lose it. Um, but she was so talented. Maybe that's where I was going. She was so talented. I hope she had an okay childhood, but she would have been so good. I'm glad that they went with like the British accent. Like it's very appropriate that
Hmm.
they got
Yeah.
her, but oh, Margaret would have killed that. Like she
Hmm.
probably killed anything else that she was in, and I say that as a positive, not a negative.
Oh, yeah, she was a scene stealer at the time.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, he was
yeah.
so thrown off when we watched Meet Me in St. Louis together by the antics of those kids, and probably especially by Tootie.
Oh,
But
she was great. I
but
loved her.
she wasn't a child actor where you're like, okay, the kid's acting, they're doing their best. No, it's like, no,
Yeah.
she sold what she was doing, and
She felt real.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So
so do you know if she
I
had a
get the
nice?
impression, I don't know anything about Margaret O'Brien, but I get the
Okay.
impression that her mom was very,
A stage mom.
See,
yeah.
that's my question. Like, did she have a bad situation with that? It's like I felt so bad over Judy Garland, and I hope that, and I feel like Shirley Temple's mom was not like that. Like they actually had a good
Oh no, Shirley
relationship.
Temple's mom was probably the reason why Shirley Temple ended up so well after being in the child star industry.
Hmm.
Um,
Like they really seemed like, yeah, it seemed like a
yeah.
good relationship, and I just hope that Margaret didn't have to.
If I remember correctly,
Ugh,
though, with Margaret O'Brien, part of the problem with the contract that Walt was offering was at that time Walt offered long-term contracts, so like which a lot of
oh,
studios could do, but Margaret O'Brien's mother, if I remember correctly, she really didn't like how long he wanted to have her under contract for. And
sure.
I think she was probably right, because the way he treated his other child stars over the years, I really disagree with some of the things Walt chose to do.
So that whole Yell Fest or whatever may have been perfect blessing in disguise
Yeah, it
later
really
on.
probably was. I don't know if Margaret realizes that later, but like some child stars that Walt Disney signed on that I think got shafted. Bobby Driscoll, who
Oh, I
we
couldn't
talked about
watch
later.
that. I couldn't watch that
Yeah,
short with him without thinking about
Yeah.
you
yeah,
know, there's like a pall over.
Mm-hmm. I felt
yeah.
the
It's
same way.
depressing knowing what happens to him, but also knowing that Walt, like, he had him under contract, refused to give him roles
Oh,
besides like
really?
that. Yeah, I guess as he got older, he looked different than Walt thought he was going to look, and he didn't want to cast him in anything.
Well, I remember reading that he had acne. So
Yeah,
there may have been an issue with that, but I saw like a picture of him with his wife. He was a good looking dude.
yeah.
It's
So
not like you know, yeah.
it's like, yeah. Or the other one, Darlene from Mickey Mouse Club, I feel was really shafted over for Annette. Um,
Oh.
do you
I don't
guys know
think I
about
know who
that?
Darlene
This might be
is.
a tangent.
I wonder why.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody knows.
Annette, hot take, she wasn't that talented as much as Darlene was, and she couldn't sing.
Oh, really?
Walt actually, her singing voice is fake. Walt had to develop a way of having her sing something two times and then taking those two takes and putting them together to make her voice sound better. He
What the
did like,
heck?
yeah,
Okay, so you know
voice,
what? I've
yeah.
only seen a little bit of Mickey Mouse Club, but I know Annette Funicello. I know I like to think of her as Annette Funicello anyway. Um,
Hmm,
but why did he just like her face better? What's who? Because
probably, but everyone kind of did, I guess, which I don't get because she's a good dancer and she can actish. So personally, I think her acting is more bland. It's just kind of, I'm here and I'm nice. Um,
Now I'm curious to go back and rewatch some of the
yeah,
stuff that I watched of her years ago.
yeah. Darlene, the triple threat. She can act, she could sing, she could dance, everything.
I'm
And
looking
she
her
was
up now.
supposed, yeah, she was supposed, when the Mickey Mouse Club ended, Annette went on to do, like movies, the Disney movies. And Darlene was also supposed to start in a movie. I forget which one. I think it might have been the Oz movie, actually, or something. Because at the time, Walt thought he was going to do an Oz movie with the Mickey Mouse Club in it, and Darlene was going to be Dorothy.
Hmm.
And then she did like a tour, and then he just decided to do nothing with her.
Is this like
But
is this a case of her energy not melding with his? Because I'm looking at her and she's beautiful and from what you're saying, very talented.
yeah, I think for some reason, I know later some people did criticize her for having a bad attitude, but from what I could tell, that developed later during the Mickey Mouse Club reunions when I think she kind of had a reason to have a bad attitude. Um,
Why is she
as
so
far as
upset?
yeah, as far as I know, like she had kind of had a reason to be salty. Um, but anyway, because Walt like was like, actually, never mind. I'm not going to put her in any movies. However, I'm not going to release her from her contract because essentially he wanted Annette to succeed. He didn't want any competition for Annette.
That is so mean.
It is. It's awful. And the only thing she did was she let her do records, and that's it. But nothing like super talented. It was like, those like books where you listen to the record and you read along, like those kind of read along books for Disney movies. And I think she
Hmm.
did let her do one album, and the songs are kind of eh. And he had her under contract for a really long time. But by the time that she was out of it, it's like Darlene who,
Mm.
Anyway, my point being, Margaret's mom was probably right on the money in not trusting him to treat her daughter well. And I say that with love for Walt. I don't think he saw the child stars as people.
I don't think a
Um,
lot of people
Oh
back then
the
saw little kids
yeah,
as people.
oh the irony. Oh the irony. If
yeah,
anyone should be seeing them as people.
I
Yeah.
know.
By the
Yeah,
way, dear listeners, Darlene is still alive. She's 83. So if anybody wants to send her flowers and tell her how great she was,
she was in a bit of trouble there. She got caught for like petty larceny or something. But
I feel
again,
like we talked about this. Did we talk about this one time?
I
I
don't
feel like I
know.
remember it like a former Disney child star who got arrested for something.
I think it's happened more than once.
Oh no.
But I can't remember anyone, but I might have brought it up before because it's an issue close to my heart. But anyway, Catherine was treated very well. So after Margaret O'Brien fell through, which, good for her, he tried, what's her name? Luana Patton, the little girl in
Luann
So Dear to
Patton,
My
I
Heart, Song
think.
of the South.
Yeah, I know
What
what
was
you're
her name?
talking about. I think it
Yeah,
was Luann Patton.
yeah, and I'm
Luana Patton.
Luana, yeah. I don't think she can care. I don't think she could have done it, to be honest. And then he came across Catherine Beaumont, who was, I think she had just done something with Jimmy Durante, and she was very good in that film. She was a bit character. She wasn't a big character, but she was in it enough. And when you watch this clips of her in that film, it's on YouTube. She actually has a part. So she starts off very, very British and putting on like a British accent, really accented. And then later, when she sees Jimmy's character again, she has an American twang in her voice instead. And then the next time she has like a middle ground accent. And I think that it might have caught Walt's attention when he saw it of like, this is an English girl who can vary her voice and it doesn't sound too British enough to alienate American audiences. And hopefully on the opposite end, maybe as well, it won't sound too American to English audiences, because the thing about Catherine's family is that she is British, she's English, but her parents traveled a lot, so she has kind of a transatlantic accent to it. She has such a unique voice because of the way she grew up, essentially.
Hmm.
Like, I know my English boyfriend, like apparently to him at least, and to people he knows, it sounds too American to be fully English. So I find that kind of fascinating. And personally, my own headcanon is that the Disney Alice is partly American, partly English. But anyway, so I think she ended up pretty well. She got two big roles in animated films.
Hmm.
Though after that, she didn't really have anything else to do, but she didn't really want to, as far as I could tell. She was kind of content with that, and she became a teacher, which I would have died if Alice was my teacher. I would lose my mind. But anyway, and I think she's adorable in all these, but I particularly like this one in Operation Wonderland, where Walt's like, "What are you studying, Jabberwocky?" And she's like, "No, algebra." Even
And it's
worse.
almost as bad.
Yeah. But I think it's really kind of a clever reference to the original author. It was a mathematician.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if they did. I assume they did it on purpose.
She's also still alive. She's 86.
Yeah, I've written to her. She's very
Oh,
nice.
bless you.
She answers her fan mail. If anyone hasn't, I would suggest to do it.
Cool.
Yeah, and she gives you an autograph as well, which a lot of celebrities do. Anyway, anything else about Operation Wonderland you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to say that I think my favorite part was when they showed the live action references. Because I
Oh
think I've
yeah,
said this before. I would love to see like all of that footage. Like if they could cut it into like roughly the movie, I think that would be so interesting. I think that's my favorite way out of any of these that we're going to be talking about that they promoted the movie was to show the live action actors portraying their animated characters like in full costume doing the lines. Especially Edwin. I love Edwin.
yeah. I like the live action reference for the Tea Party,
Hmm.
with Jerry Colonna as well, and Kathleen and Edwin.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah, and knowing that's the footage that accompanied the voice track in the film,
Hmm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
I wish we had like all the live action footage. To be honest, I don't believe them when they say they lost it all. I think they probably have more and they just have it on hold for future releases. They're always discovering things in that vault that is apparently very, very messy.
I would say it's also possible that they know it exists, but they don't know what reels it's on, and nobody wants to take the time to go look through it, which I can't exactly blame them for.
I mean, I do know that they are digitizing their archive, and considering how much they have is a lot. But it's like, really? That's really all that you have, or these clips that were used in promotional materials, and that doorknob one that they had on as a special features behind the scenes thing on a DVD set. I'm just like, I don't know. It feels like you probably have more, though. Over time, I do kind of wonder if it might be a situation too where they deteriorated and maybe they don't want to
Oh
acknowledge
yeah,
that.
that's possible too. Film doesn't
Yeah.
last forever if it's not fully taken care of. Well, even if it is, it'll deteriorate.
Yeah, Disney's very like not transparent about that kind of thing, I think.
Mm.
So yeah, that's all I have to say about Operation Wonderland, I think.
Yeah, my other big note was I was gonna talk about the spoilers, but we got that out of the way right at the beginning
Yeah.
because I wasn't the only one to notice apparently.
Sorry, I just realized we all had directions as our last names.
I thought about that the other day. I was like, how did that never cross my mind?
Are you west?
Yeah, I'm Jenna West, and you guys are North, so that's funny. Together we make Northwest.
North by Northwest. So if we
Yeah.
ever review that one together,
That would be a very random reason to review a movie.
get two norths, so you have north and northwest.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. Well, that's funny. All right, I'm ready for 1 hour.
Is this the one with all the kids and the?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one starts out as a Coke commercial.
Oh.
I didn't realize it at first. I was like, oh yeah, this is the era where the commercials were just baked into the programs.
Well, they sponsored it, so
Yeah.
1 hour in Wonderland, sponsored by Coke.
And Coke was ever present in this thing.
Do you want drugs in your drink? Here you go. No, I'm pretty sure that was already done by this time.
Yeah, probably.
I think it was anyway. I'm no expert on that.
Maybe depending on what crowd you're in.
All right, so we jump into it.
I think maybe we already did.
Yeah, I guess so. So really quick, I think the really interesting thing about this, I don't know if you guys realize that this is Disney's very first time doing their own television program ever.
Mm.
And I think that's really neat because you could kind of say this paved the way for, Disney ended up becoming a big name in television. They got their own channel and, programming blocks and yada yada. So it's like, it's a pretty neat piece of history to be like, oh, wow, you can trace it all from this special.
Okay. That's good to know.
I didn't realize this was the very first Disney special.
Yeah. Also, in comparison to every other early TV thing I've seen, which isn't very much, I'm no expert, but I've seen quite a few early TV stuff from like the 50s, especially in regards to like Alice's. Disney is so like perfect and polished compared to other TV programs that I've seen. It's kind of weird. Like I'm more used to like the Disney polishing, and then when I do see like a live TV program from the 50s, it like throws me off, especially if you've seen like the 1954 Crafts Theater Alice, which is kind of a mess, which I'll bring up a little bit later again. And so it's just kind of like I don't know, it's just very interesting, like the contrast of how a lot of early television was so like brand new and very loose. And he's just coming in with like film polishing and I want everything to be done a certain way and edited. We're not doing this live. It must have seemed pretty magical, I bet.
Maybe.
So you mentioned Craft Theater. Did that also have Edgar Bergen?
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up.
Because when I started watching this, I was like, I feel like Sarah and I watched something years ago that we were going to do an episode on, and we never did, that had Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Yes.
And I thought, well, maybe this was it. But then that started happening. I was like, no, I have never seen this. So that must have been the thing we watched years ago and then never did an episode of Wonderland Wednesday on.
Oh, you never did it? You never...
Why would we watch... Have we ever watched something in... I feel like if we watched some...
At one point, I was looking up old like 1950s stuff, mostly promotional Disney stuff, and I was thinking we would do episodes of Wonderland Wednesday on. But I think that was probably 2018 when I was thinking about transitioning into podcasting, and I kind of just got out of doing Wonderland Wednesday as often, and then we just never did it.
Life interrupted, maybe.
Probably, yeah. But I knew there was something with Edgar Bergen, and then I never looked it up to figure out what it was. So when I started watching this, I was like, what was this it? But then I did not remember anything with Mortimer Snurd in the shower and trying
Oh
to get
yeah, wouldn't
Charlie
you just love
McCarthy.
that if you're trying to get cleaned up in that face with someone there?
So for anyone listening without any context, though, after this, in 1954, Edgar Bergen starred in the Kraft Theater television production of Alice in Wonderland, where it's essentially Alice in Wonderland with Edgar Bergen and his puppets or I shouldn't say puppets, dummies, just inserted in the story. It's very weird.
I like his dimple.
And then it's worth a watch, but it's
We should try and do that because I had
yeah.
planned on it one time years ago. We should maybe the three of us can do that sometime in the future. That would be interesting.
But let me tell you, I first watched that in like a television archive because it wasn't available to watch outside of the archive at that time. And that was weird. I was like, what am I watching right now? At some point, a man goes in front of the camera. Like he didn't realize the camera was there. Um, just a lot of goofs.
I can see why Walt would be annoyed if that something like that was taking place on a live set.
So it's kind of fascinating that Edgar Bergen has been in two separate Alice things in the 50s.
Hmm.
So obviously one was more Alice than the other.
Yeah, this had a lot less Alice than I expected.
Yeah, can I just say Charlie McCarthy is such a creepy character that
That's
I
what
don't
I
think would
thought.
ever fly nowadays. I'm gonna
I remember he was in Fun and Fancy Free. I don't remember him being a creepy little perv.
yeah,
Weren't they trying to like put him off as younger than he actually is?
And I wondered, but he looked like he's like 40.
that's the weird thing is that it kind of switches back and forth where he's like, oh, it's a child too, or maybe a teenager or something. But then he'll say something like he seems like he's older, and then it goes back and
Yeah.
which again, if anyone's watching this or listening who hasn't watched it, it's like his character trait, or at least one of them, is essentially he flirts with little girls who are too innocent to realize he's flirting with them. It's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Are you talking about just in this special or in general?
In general, that seems to be the character trait. He does it in the 1954 Alice as well.
Makes me
So
wonder about Bergen.
I had a
yeah,
fleeting thought of that, but I was hoping that he was just doing this as a joke for the puppet.
Right, like you're a cute girl. I'm gonna act like a little boy who's interested in you, even though I don't look like a little boy.
maybe I don't know. It's kind of honestly, the 50s were a strange time.
Nobody had impure intentions 70 years ago. They were all very righteous souls with no baser instincts.
I don't know anything about Edgar Bergen. I do know, he was influential for his time, and obviously he's very good at what he did.
I
Um,
know he was popular.
yeah. I know he inspired Jim Henson,
Hmm.
so it's like, but this ain't it. Go back and redo it, please. I really uncomfortable, especially even Catherine at one point, I feel like does a awkward laugh, like, and I don't think it was meant to be awkward, but it feels that way to me, and I'm just like, I'm in pain with you. And the awkward laugh when you have a creep trying to flirt with you, and you're just like, yeah.
Now I'm thinking of this as like a meme format, like that feeling when a creepy puppet is hitting on you.
But it's funny. While I was watching this, I was like, "Oh wait, I think it's Goosebumps. They have like a Slappy character, like an evil ventriloquist dummy that falls in love with the real human girl." And I'm like, "Is that inspired by Edgar Bergen?"
Hmm.
I know the character you're talking about. I don't like I never read Goosebumps as a kid. I wasn't allowed to, but I remember that cover. the cover of the dummy book.
Yeah, but it feels very Sing vibes.
I would not be surprised if somebody has seen Charlie McCarthy and got weird vibes and decided this needs to be a horror character.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if it turns out that's the inspiration. But anyway, so now we've addressed it and we can, you know, beat the horse till it's dead. That's creepy. Um, I will say, so Charlie seems to be the favorite dummy, and Mortimer Snerd's kind of off in the corner. I will say I did actually laugh quite a few times at Mortimer Snerd talking to the
I did
Creepy doll.
too. I thought he was way funnier. He's just a little weirdo, and I liked that.
Oh, I like that he's apparently doesn't realize he's talking to an inanimate object because he is also an object. So he's just talking to a doll that never speaks back. Um, and I don't know, something about that was really funny. He had a few good lines. Did he have the car sick line? I don't remember, but that was funny.
Yeah, he kept acting like he was retching out the side of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I also like the scene where he does the mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all, and the mirror says, "Art thou kidding?" I actually laughed at that.
Yeah. Oh, the mirror is Hook, by the way. That's fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
same actor.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the mirror?
He's funny. Um, I don't think he fits into the lore very well of Disney overall, but it's funny. I don't know if I'd say it's cute. It's just
It's definitely like cute. I did
yeah.
laugh at the fact that he was insulted when they compared him to a television, and then after one of his scenes, he said it was done without the aid of vulgar knobs, tubes, and aerials.
And then also to use a common expression, I'm pooped. Like, but yeah, it is kind of funny. They have this magical mirror in their possession and they just use it like a TV. Just use a TV, my dudes.
But that would be less theatrical.
That's true. Walt needed a reason to do the monologue, I suppose. But I just thought it's fun that what's his name? I think it's Hans Conried. Oh man, I might be
Yeah,
wrong. But
that sounds right.
yeah, I think it's fun that he's in this and Bobby Driscoll's in it, who becomes Peter Pan.
Well, they were probably working on it at
Oh
that
yeah,
point.
100%. Walt was already thinking about the next picture.
I didn't realize that he was the voice of Peter Pan.
Bobby
Yeah,
Driscoll?
Hmm.
but that was his last big role, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, I think. I don't know, I might be
I think it
wrong.
was his last role for Disney.
Yeah, before Walt essentially was like, I can't use him in anything. He's too,
Pimply.
yeah. I need to look it up.
That's what makeup's for, right?
Oh yeah, he did Treasure Island as well. Forgot about that. That was actually pretty controversial, apparently. I learned later. Treasure Island, he was illegally doing Treasure Island. So that's fun.
What was illegal about it?
Um, so I guess in the UK at the time, they had like after World War II, they had like profit from playing their movies in the UK, but they had to put the money back into the UK filming industry. So that's when Walt decided to start trying live action. So this included like Treasure Island, The Sword and the Rose or whatever. And I've read Robin Hood and His Merry Men. And I think there was supposed to be another movie, but anyway, essentially, he needed to hire an English cast and crew, and he brought Bobby Driscoll there to be Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island, and apparently he was there illegally, and they fined Disney and I think it's Bobby as well for working without like permission. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know very much more about that. It's just kind of weird. He was supposed to be in one of the other live action films, but Walt didn't want to tempt fate again.
Hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter Pan was essentially his last big role, like just looking at his filmography, like everything else never heard of.
Hmm.
So did he go to work for other people after Walt, or what happened there?
Good question.
Yeah, he has a bunch of other credits afterwards, but I think it was just mostly like an episode of a TV show here and there. I
Yeah.
don't know that there were any more big movies.
He also did some stage stuff. and radio. He was a busy kid at the time. So he turned primarily in the mid-50s. His acting career began to decline, and he turned primarily to guest appearances on anthology TV series. And during a project meeting following the completion of Peter Pan, Disney stated that he now saw Driscoll as best suited for roles as a young bully rather than a likable protagonist. Driscoll's salary at Disney had been raised to $1,750 per week, but Driscoll had little work from 1952 on. In March 1953, Driscoll's additional 2-year option had been extended, which would have kept him at Disney into 1956, but was canceled just weeks after Peter Pan was released theatrically. A severe case of acne accompanying the onset of puberty, explaining why it was necessary for Driscoll to use heavy makeup for his performances on dozens of TV shows, was officially provided as the final reason for the termination of his connection to Disney Studios. So, anyway, anything else we have to say about 1 Hour in Wonderland?
Oh, did the people should know that Coke is a health beverage and that they should stock it all the time so that when anybody comes over, you can give them Coca-Cola.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is an
According-
educational program about, and I learned how a good host always has not diet, sorry. I drink Diet Coke, but they should always have Coke on hand for hosting.
I mean, it's practically a vegetable.
Um, I
Brown
also,
kind of like dirt, so good
yeah,
things come from dirt.
yeah, totally. Oh, I did have a couple more notes. So I thought one thing that's kind of weird that happens in this that I think is very interesting Disney lore now, apparently, is so a character, I think might have been Edgar Bergen, accidentally sits on Donald Duck's voice, and he's completely
Oh, yeah.
invisible. He hasn't been drawn to his voice yet, and Walt picks him up and throws him out to get drawn. And it's like, what is this lore? Like voices follow animators around to be animated. They're hunted by these voices. Like how did this happen? How does this work?
That confused me. I was not sure what they were going for there. I think they were doing it to try and make a joke about the crossover between voice acting and ventriloquism, but it just
Yeah,
didn't make a whole lot of sense.
it
I
didn't.
didn't think about it that hard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably was a ventriloquist thing because it came right after he was talking about throwing his voice, right? But it was, I don't know. I'm just
Oh,
like, this has,
was it supposed to be a pun?
yeah. Does he Walt throws Donald's voice out, yeah. And
Wow.
I'm like, this has confusing implications for the Disney universe. And then the other note I have is interesting. We have Disney's daughters in on this too, and they even have a line.
Did they do much with, because I don't remember seeing them in anything else before.
No, I don't think so. They weren't really put on screen or anything normally, so this was pretty rare for them.
Hmm.
Um,
Maybe it was because, I don't know, maybe part of it was the fact that it was the first television special and just getting in on something unique.
True.
Yeah, maybe.
I think also there's kind of a story reason for them to even be involved here. So I forgot to mention this when we were talking about hitting on young girls. So this whole party is mostly young girls at the Disney Studios. The plot line being it's Catherine Beaumont has arranged this party, and there were probably her friends or whatever. So I guess Walt saw an opportunity to put his daughters in here naturally and have a joke about him being a character eccentric, you know,
Hmm.
because their whole bit is, yes, he's our father, you know. But yeah, so I don't know if they appeared in anything else.
Yeah, this is the first time I'd ever noticed them in anything, but I'm not too familiar with them. So if they were in something and not called out by name, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible maybe they were in background stuff, but I have no idea. I'm not a Disney expert, believe it or not. Looking it up. Um, no, they're not in anything else. This is it. Oh, okay. I might have been in Christmas with Walt Disney, but she was a narrator in that 2009 Diane Pixar story 2007. So like this is the only thing she did when her dad was alive.
Hmm.
Isn't Oh man. I'm thinking about Coca-Cola and pizza.
Oh gosh, now I want some. Thanks.
But not like Coca-Cola. I need like the hippie version and a gluten-free pizza. Uh, Supreme. Thank you very much. Anyway, uh not super helpful, but diverting.
I know,
Um
I think it's very helpful because now that's what I want. Um,
Advertising is working after the fact, sort of.
just goes to show you, sponsors, that if your advertising can work years after the fact.
Mm. They might be proud.
Yeah.
I feel like there are other things that could be said about this that I'm not thinking of right now. I mean, one of them being for the people watching this special who may have seen Snow White in theater, how much opportunity would they have had to relive that scene that they played again? So that was
Oh
probably
yeah.
special for people,
We
for peepers, for people.
we should talk about that. Like that actually would have been a really big deal.
I wondered that with specifically Snow White, but I think all of the things that they showed were probably something that nobody had had an opportunity to see again
Yeah.
after it had been in the theater.
Yeah, like
Which would
think about it. This is
think,
like the first time Snow White was on TV.
Mm.
It's kind of nuts.
like if I could time travel, I think it would have been cool to see the premiere of Snow White.
Oh yeah.
And that probably meant so much to different people back then to have to relive it that way a little bit.
Hmm.
Was yeah, that was probably pretty cool.
I think,
Yeah.
in terms of like Disney history, at any point being a 90s kid onwards, we're spoiled, right?
Mm.
We get to watch Disney movies anytime we want.
Hmm.
Um,
Did this special come out in 1950 or 51?
I think it was 1950.
And then Snow White was that 38?
I think it was
I think
37.
so.
30,
37. So like you could conceivably have people who were kids who saw that and have now grown up getting to see a little bit of it again.
yeah. I think Snow White did have a re-release at some point between that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember when that. I wouldn't know when that was. Hold on. Actually, this is interesting. When was it? Re-releases. Because Disney films in general were very unique for having re-releases. Were there any other films that happened to? Maybe Wizard of Oz?
Like them actually playing it again in the theater.
Yeah, before television.
See, that would absolutely stink if you go to the theater and you love what you saw, and okay, never gonna see that again unless you live 70 more years and they start putting it out.
On Wikipedia, it says Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was first re-released in 1944 to raise revenue for the Disney studio during World War II period.
Hmm.
That makes sense. They were really struggling during that time.
It says this re-release set a tradition of re-releasing Disney animated features every few years, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was re-released to theaters in 1952, 58, 67, 75, 83, 87, and 93.
I remember the 1993 one, not actually going because I was only a year old, but like the amount of how excited people were about it, and there was so much merchandise and everything. It was big.
Hmm.
But yeah, so like people who saw this clip, they hadn't seen it since 1944. It's like 5 years-ish, six. I'm dumb.
6,
6 years. That's a
at
long
least.
time. I could watch Snow White right now if I wanted to. I could leave you guys and just watch Snow White. Easy.
Hmm.
So I do feel like we kind of don't have the context of how big this probably was at the time.
Yeah,
Just see clips of people's favorite Disney films.
yeah, that's true. Because when I was watching this, I was thinking, like, why do we need to see all of these clips of all of these things? Like, because I'm going into this expecting Wonderland. It's
Yeah.
called 1 Hour in Wonderland. And like halfway through, I was like, I've been watching this for like 30 minutes, and we just had them talking about Alice at the beginning, and now we're watching Snow White and a Mickey cartoon and Song of the South. It's like,
Did anybody else find that Mickey cartoon to be one of those slightly frustrating things?
The clock
Like
one?
sometimes, like some things are funny, some things keep you engaged, and other things you're like, oh, come
Yeah.
on, just get it together, make it stop.
I feel like that's a lot of early cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that one being a little bit more frustrating though. It's not my it's like up there with Mickey Mouse cartoons, but it's not the best one. I'm kind of surprised they chose it when there's like better ones.
I guess it's okay because I don't know if I'd ever seen it before. Maybe I might have seen it before.
I had it on a tape when I was little.
I don't know that I'd seen it, but the Pluto cartoon is the one I know I'd seen.
Did it have
Yeah.
been something if they called out Steamboat Willie for this special?
Actually, that would have been I feel like that would have been specialer, but
Like with all the
yeah.
parents or whatever. I remember that.
Walt's like, I want to relive this cinematic masterpiece I did. Play Steamboat Willie. His daughter's like, oh no, not this again. But yeah, I feel like not the greatest choice of the Mickey Mouse cartoon selection, but I guess anything would have been impressive.
I might have to watch Steamboat Willie tonight.
Well, there you go. I have to eat pizza because of what you said. Now you have to watch Steamboat Willie.
Oh man, I don't have any pizza at home. Anyway, but you enjoy it and think
I live
of
by a
me.
pizza place. I'm very fortunate. Think of me. Anyway,
Yeah, what kind are you gonna get?
be prepared to be prepared to hate me. I like Hawaiian pizza.
I love Hawaiian
She does
pizza.
too.
Yes,
Oh, it's
yay!
so good.
Me too. I think it's great. I love the pineapple.
Yes.
And the cheese together is good.
Juicy and
Yes.
warm.
I'm not one who hates it. I like Supreme, so my favorite is Supreme, but Hawaiian is fine, especially when Sasha, her sister, makes it. Like she made one that
Nice.
was made with crushed pineapple and shredded ham. It was really good. That
Oh,
was like the best Hawaiian pizza I've ever had, and no one has replicated it.
See, I like the
that sounds nice.
chunks. I like the chunks. I want,
I do like chunks, but I would try. I would try that.
and I love
Sounds interesting.
I love Supreme too. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, it's nice to meet people who have taste.
I feel like most people who hate pineapple on pizza have never actually had pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case, but it's also like, who cares if you don't like it?
Yeah, the whole
I
people hating other people for liking it is weird.
I think it's weird. I'm just like, you don't have to eat it. I'm eating it. So, yeah, but anyway, be prepared for people to be like, how dare you if you leave this. Um, I think that's what's missing from the special is eating pizza
oh
with Coke.
man.
At Christmas time, because oh yeah, we have Santa at the beginning as well.
I was wondering how they filmed that. Did he do everything backwards? Because like the presents flew
Backwards.
up into his hand. But
Yeah, it's
he must
backwards.
have practiced well because it looked good. Like, because I was trying to think of him having to do all of that backwards, and it looked natural. So I feel like they did a good job with that.
I mean, yeah, but I kind of hate it. It feels really off to me. I think I think that it just goes on for too long that my brain just goes
Well, yeah.
bad.
It
Something
was
bad's
weird.
here.
I
Yeah.
just mean the him walking back and forth to the tree to the bag. That looked natural enough.
Oh yeah, he does that very well actually.
But yes, it did go on too long. It was strange.
Honestly, I think it was too much effort for what they were doing. Like how
Coke
much they
spares
had
no
to probably
expense.
practice
They've
that.
got to get that Coke plug in
Yeah.
there.
The director's like, I have a vision. Like, I don't want to just do a Coke ad. I need to do it this way because then that makes it special. And just do it. Do it. Yeah.
Bring out the
Like
Coca-Cola, babe.
Then I need the magic mirror in the middle of this thing to get really parched, and then they need to stop and drink Coke.
Yeah, that was kind of way to degrade the magic mirror.
People always like, criticize modern day Disney for like financials and sponsorships and stuff. And it's like, I don't know, Walt did a lot of tacky shit too. So sorry for saying the S word. But
You said stuff, right? It was this, we did
No, I
tacky
said
stuff. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
no, I said stuff. Yes, stuff. It took me a while to
No,
catch
this
on.
is the swear word that I used. Listen to me. You're not.
Stuff. Anyway, she did some tacky stuff too. Uh, yep.
If he edits that out, then they're always gonna know why I'm laughing.
I could put a beep over it.
It's up to you. You could beep over it. Or I could do another take, I suppose, if you want.
No, it's fine. I think it'll
Okay.
be funnier.
Anyway, you're just saying that it didn't start today.
Yeah,
And
it's he.
the sacred founder was not above such things.
People forget that Walt was a person who also like needed money to do things. So yeah, it's. I mean, look at like early Disneyland. Everything had a sponsorship, and he didn't really want it to be that way, but he
They
knew
had
he
a
had to
whole
do it.
tuna salad stand for a pirate ship.
Yeah, essentially, it was really good tuna, I hear,
This
but you
is
know,
so
yeah.
out of context in my brain right now. I don't even know what they had a whole tuna salad stand for a pirate ship. What the
They
heck are we
had
even talking about?
they had a pirate ship restaurant. You know, it's themed after the Jolly Roger, but it was basically you went in there and you would eat tuna sandwiches.
But it was Chicken of the Sea, specifically
Yeah.
branded Chicken of the Sea.
And this was related to Disney.
They paid to be there.
Oh, it was at Disneyland. Yeah.
Now you're gonna make me want a tuna salad sandwich. And I ate. I'm not actually hungry right now. You're making me think about yummy food.
This is going to be the most bizarre podcast.
Disney's had some weird sponsorships over the years, is our point, and that they haven't always promoted them in non-tacky ways.
Well, I mean, this is better than a lot of the old like this is nothing new to the TV of that era because you had
Yeah.
like I Love Lucy was sponsored by cigarettes and like it didn't have the iconic
Oh gosh.
opening until years later because they had a cigarette opening.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see that now.
Or even like a lot of other television stuff was really heavy-handed with their commercials.
Yeah. No, this
Yeah.
is nothing new.
Yeah.
This is probably more restrained than some of them.
Yeah. And actually, like, I think it's edited out of so 1955 Hallmark has this really long intermission in the middle of it talking about Hallmark cards, the different occasions they could be used for, and it is so boring. And I think it was cut out of the version people like see nowadays on the internet.
I was going to
They-
say I don't remember
yeah,
that, but I believe you.
In the Alice
yeah,
one?
Yeah, the 50s
yeah,
one,
Can
which
I
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
quick rabbit trail? Very quick
yeah.
rabbit trail. I feel
Okay.
like one of the like I have issues with, don't hate me, Hallmark people. I have issues with modern day Hallmark. But growing up, one of the special things about watching a Hallmark movie was the touchy-feely commercials, like the feel-good commercials in between, like, oh, they all got together and remembered their old basketball coach or whatever. It's so beautiful. It's special again. Anyway, it was just stuff like
I don't remember the commercials. I would love to watch like an old Hallmark Channel thing again. I tried like newer Hallmark movies, and it's not the same.
okay, so like it's
Yeah,
probably 90s, early 2000s, like you and I are about the same age. So,
yeah.
but they would create like this whole little vignette or story that would, be moving or just hit you in the feels in a nice way. And it was just a commercial, but yeah, when you care enough to send the very best. Oh,
Yeah.
have you ever okay, another quick okay, recommendations for
Okay.
Hallmark. Have you ever seen The Love Letter from the 90s or What the Deaf Man Heard?
That's definitely no. I haven't seen either of those.
Okay, What the Deaf
But
Man
most
Heard.
of my Hallmark channel is like my mom watching it and me kind of like sitting there on the couch also watching it, but not really like knowing what I was watching.
And maybe don't watch The Painted House because that's not going to leave you feeling good at the end. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the love letter is basically a time travel love story, but it's more complicated than that. And it is so mushy, but I love it. And I don't always, oh man, it's like their things weren't going well back in the Civil War era with this woman. And it's like he works in her life to help her actually have a meaningful life. And it's just so cool. Anyway, I'm borderline chills
I
on that
just
one. And
I just looked it up and I'm like, yeah, this is a good synopsis. I might legitimately watch this. Thank you, Sarah, for the
you're
recommend.
welcome. I'm more picky. And What the Deaf Man Heard, if I could only have you watch one of them, I would have you watch that one. And it's free on YouTube. Get your pizza and watch it as soon as possible with your refreshing Diet Coke. Uh,
What's it called? What the deaf man heard?
What the Deaf Man Heard with is it Bernadette Peters and one or more other famous people. It is so you'll never forget it. You'll never
Is
forget it.
it
It's
1997?
probably
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna
Yeah,
find any
free with
other
ads.
movie with that title on it. And it says what's the name of that? James Earl Jones on
Oh
it.
yeah, he's in the thumbnail. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, gotta watch it. Gotta watch it. Okay. Yeah,
All right,
so
thank
good.
you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. Maybe I should go watch it too after Steamboat Willie.
maybe you should
And
start.
I bake
Maybe
a
you should
pizza.
start a recommended vlog or something.
It's like I'm not the same, TV movie nut that other people are on this podcast, but yeah, I do have some
You have
favorites.
taste.
Thank you. So,
All right,
now that I've thoroughly, yeah,
derailed, but in a fun
yes,
way. I don't mind.
yeah, as long as it's in a fun way. Do we want to move on to the other special?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, I don't think we'll have too much trouble not talking about delicious beverages with today's sponsor. Because today's sponsor is just General Electric.
Mm, to keep your
We could
Coke
talk about
cool.
refrigerators.
Yes, that keep your leftover pizza and your Coca-Cola nice and frosty
Where
cold.
else am
So
I gonna pull my nice cold beverage out of besides my General Electric refrigerator?
at 4 a.m. when you found again that you can't sleep, you know where to go to your General Electric refrigerator.
But General Electric has a very long history with Disney. Most famously, the Carousel of Progress at Disneyland and later Walt Disney World. And I think this is like a great program. It's actually my favorite of the three.
I can understand that.
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
saved it for last. It was
yeah.
mine as well.
I think it's so charming, and even if nobody, if you're a listener and you don't have any interest in watching promotional stuff, I would say check this one out because it does go kind of like beyond. It's more like charming.
I think it's
Um,
more
yeah,
focused on the movie and the story. Yeah, the story
yeah.
itself. Yeah. So if you're just a fan of even just the Disney one and you want to see Sterling Holloway and stuff,
Hmm.
this. And honestly, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but that one musical number that they did with the choir from Alice, so
Yeah.
good.
Hmm.
The Fred Warren Choir is really good. They're all really talented. And I didn't know this, but they apparently released a record of them singing the Alice soundtrack. It's really rare.
Ooh.
Um,
Well, he
yeah,
talked in the special about recording a record.
yeah. And I didn't, the first time I watched this, I didn't realize he meant literally. It seems kind of strange, though, right? Like you're not part of the movie, but you're going
I
to
mean,
record a
it
record.
probably
Yeah.
seems strange now, but I would guess that maybe it was a little more common back then, especially for somebody like him to release something like that.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm not extremely familiar with this kind of thing, but I would assume that since you can't buy a VHS tape or a DVD at that time, a record would be the main way you could have a piece of your movie memory.
Yeah, I actually don't know when the first like actual Disney Alice soundtrack came out. I have one, like I have a vinyl of it, but it's a modern one. I know they did like see and read, like read and listen stuff later,
Hmm.
but I don't know when that first would have been, which is funny because ironically, I went through a period trying to collect Disney Alice records, and now I've forgotten everything. because I have a couple things, but I haven't found the Fred Roaring Choir record. I would love to have that. Definitely would be a prized possession.
Well, not that it's the same thing, but I think it's on YouTube.
I think it is. I just want the physical record because I like
Hmm.
having. I'm. It's weird. I'm not really an audiophile person, but I really love the sound of like vinyl records being played with a record player in person.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
and there's something about watching it turn. So it's like I want to collect interesting vinyls, and that's one of them. I would like this one a lot.
Hmm.
And it has a cool like cover too, from what I've seen. Anyway, so neat piece of history. If you ever catch your hands on one, is actually probably valuable, and a lot of people don't know about it.
It's kind of specialized information.
Yeah, and I think this was another big deal about going back to the program itself. This is the premiere of the soundtrack, so it would have been like
Mm.
it's kind of nuts, really, because we're so used to the Disney Alice soundtrack now,
Hmm.
and but this would have been the first time anyone heard anything of it.
I didn't even think about that when I was watching it, but you're right.
Yeah, and they really like focus on the soundtrack, obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like with the was there a little there was a little bit of musicality, wasn't there, with the or was it
Hmm?
Well, I think they had
maybe
the
not,
unbirthday song.
but it wasn't just maybe smaller bits that weren't as well, yeah, they had part of the song with the flowers, didn't they? And the other one
Did they
too,
have a
didn't they?
song?
I think so, but
Well, I think
this
they
was
did in Operation Wonderland. I think they had part of the flower song. I don't know if they played the entire thing.
but this one had like I don't remember them showing is it A World of My Own, like playing that in these other ones, which is such a wonderful song.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the choir version of In a World of My Own at the end of this production.
Yes,
It's beautiful.
I loved that. I love choir music anyway, and that's
Yeah.
yeah.
But, already kind of skipping to the end, but bouncing off that, I really love how Alice is almost like a mythological creature in this. She must be summoned by theme song. Um, her her role in her spiritual endeavors is to look curious at things, and equally as mythological, she must go when she is wondering and sent off with another theme song. So I don't know. I just enjoy how Alice is depicted here. I think it's really interesting. Like, I don't know. I just enjoy. Oh, we can't find it. Oh, I can find her. Alice. I just think it's magical. I will say Catherine Beaumont was not having a good day with her voice.
You could really tell in the I Give
Yeah,
Myself Very Good Advice song.
yeah, she struggled during that. I think she just got over a cold or something, or she lost, lost her voice or something.
Hmm.
And I think it's the cold though. But she does really, really well regardless. She just acts like that's not. She's a professional. She acts like it's not a problem. Her voice is
Hmm.
fine,
Mm.
which is good, obviously.
I think if I had not known in advance, because like I don't know if we talked about it in an episode or not, but I knew from talking to you that she had a cold in this special.
Yeah.
So I was listening for it, but I only really noticed it in the I Give Myself Very Good Advice song. And I think if I hadn't known that, I think I would have chalked it up to it being an old television program and audio quality wasn't that great. Because
Mm.
other than the sound of her voice, she gave no indication that she was not feeling well.
It's actually like really impressive for a child actress
Yeah.
to trudge on like this. Like, the show must go on.
Hmm.
I'm going to act like I do have my voice. And yeah, she does a great job. I love her in this special, and just like lacking how much we have of the live action reference. I love this special in the context of being able to see her act out her Alice,
Hmm.
especially like with our other guest stars, Sterling Holloway as a Cheshire Cat. I
Hmm.
love how they interact with each other, and they actually have a chemistry, and that I think we don't get in the film because they didn't record together.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's really fun. If you like the Disney Alice, definitely check this out. And Sterling Holloway is having a great time. He's having a ball. I don't know. He just is having a lot of fun, and it's fun to watch him. He's wearing a stupid bow tie and a stupid animal hood, cat hood. Not the best costume, but he doesn't let it drag him down.
He seemed to be a totally good sport about it. Maybe he's
Yeah,
one of those people that doesn't care,
yeah,
because some people are just fabulous at being silly. And
yeah.
I've
He's like,
never
I've been the
been,
frog footman in the 1933 Alice. No one knew it was me. I'm okay with this.
he was in a 1933.
Oh yeah, he was in
Yeah.
1933 as the frog footman. You can't even tell it's him because
Was
his whole face is covered.
was that the same one as Cary Grant?
Yeah.
Being,
Yeah,
oh, I forgot. Okay.
like I said, you can't tell it's him. He doesn't even sound like himself. It's really weird.
Hmm.
It's like, are you sure that Sterling Holloway is in that? I don't know if maybe that I'm not a big Sterling Holloway like career guy. Like I don't follow his career, so I don't know if like he because it doesn't even sound like him to me in that one. So I don't know if he ended up like emphasizing, more of a different tone later with his voice. But yeah, he doesn't you can't even tell it's him. He's like, as long as I don't have to wear a full frontal mask, I'm okay with it. So I really enjoy Sterling and Catherine in this special, or as Fred Waring would say, Alice and Sterling. And I choose to believe that means the canon name of the cat is Sterling. I'm kidding. um, no, but I think they both do great jobs in this.
Yeah. No, it's fun to see him because you don't get a whole lot of the Cheshire Cat usually in in good ones, I think. Like I always feel like that you don't get enough Cheshire Cat when I really like him, and then when I don't
Yeah.
like him, you get too much. But I really like he's one of the few Cheshire Cats that I really, really like. So it was nice to see him again, like actually being the Cheshire Cat, not just animated.
I think another thing about Sterling Holloway, I really enjoy this performance because I have a gripe about, sorry, a little bit of a gripe about how Jim Cummings portrays Winnie the Pooh and Cheshire Cat, all of his Sterling Holloway impressions, because he makes them all sound the same. Yeah, he's even said in interviews that, like he just kind of, oh, that will just sound like Pooh or something. And it's like, no, Sterling Holloway played his characters very differently. And I feel like you really see that in here where he's acting out the cat, who is kind of a mischievous, mysterious figure who you can't really tell if he's going to help you or not. And he's kind of in it for his own fun. And I feel like you really see that in this, that there's a characterization behind the voice as well. So anyway,
Mhm.
that's a little bit of my gripe. Most people don't agree with me. That's fine. Um,
So you're basically saying that he didn't sound like Winnie the Pooh across the board.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling Holloway was an actor. He did all of his characters and voice acting roles were different in subtle ways. Like, yeah, he had a voice. People liked him for the voice, but he didn't just do the same voice every time. And I feel like you really notice that here when you'd see his body language along with it and his facial expressions.
When I'm watching Cheshire Cat, I don't know if I've ever thought of Winnie the Pooh while watching him, like his take on the Cheshire Cat.
Some people do just interchangeably think the characters are interchangeable. It's very bizarre to me.
Hmm,
Like,
okay.
yeah,
I can see
I don't
why
know.
they think that, but I
Yeah.
I guess I do agree that Jim Cummings doesn't do enough to fully differentiate them, but I also think he does a pretty good job. Like he obviously
Oh,
isn't Sterling Holloway,
don't
but
get me wrong, he's a great voice actor and I enjoy his work.
yeah.
I just think he misses the mark a lot on these roles. He did a lot better in the Christopher Robin movie, ironically, because I always felt like his Winnie the Pooh misses the warmth and depth that Sterling had. And I think the director got on him a bit more to try to do that
Mm,
in that one. But yeah, just he has a Sterling Holloway impression essentially that he uses for different characters.
yeah.
And some people say that that is Sterling Holloway just did his voice, which is weird. I don't know why people do that to say that, but it's a thing I have seen people argue. It's like I don't understand why you're arguing that. It's such a weird thing. Anyway, this is just me loving on Sterling Holloway, saying that his body and face work is good in this too.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the dormouse?
She was special. I like the part where it's obvious that, she was meant to pop up from the table, but someone didn't realize that someone accidentally put a jug in the way and she had to move it. That was funny.
Was that on purpose or was that an ad lib?
I think that was an ad lib because I think it's a blooper because I'm pretty sure this was performed live.
Okay, I like the scene even better now.
Yeah,
That's actually pretty great. If somebody did that, if that was an accident and she just went with it, I like
he
that.
played it off very well. There's also another blooper that I only realized during this last walkthrough. At some point, I forget. I think it's during In a World of My Own. The choir's around the table, and a lot of the women singers aren't specific characters, but they're in like top hats. There's kind of mad hattresses, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, and when you watch in the wide shot, you could see they're about to come to the part of the song where only the women are going to sing, and they kind of all gather together behind where the dormouse is, and they're looking towards a vocal point, which you would assume a camera, but the next shot shows a close up of the dormouse singing, and I think that's another blooper. I think that it was supposed to go to a camera showing all of them, but it didn't. So
Hmm.
I don't know. That's why I think this is live, and plus that was normal for the time for productions to be live.
Yeah. Well, when you said in the last one about Walt wanting it to not be live to make it seem more
Yeah.
professional, I immediately was thinking of this one because it was not quite as professional.
Yeah. But I mean, when you consider that it's live, it's very well done, actually.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen a lot worse than this. I was just
Yeah.
thinking of the things that were not quite perfect.
Yeah. I think another interesting thing in this is that I feel like the costumes are very like generic Alice than specifically Disney Alice,
Hmm.
which makes sense because they probably wouldn't have wanted to make a whole wardrobe.
Yeah,
But you see a lot of characters that aren't in the movie.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe it was just the Fred Waring show, just looking at the book and coming up with stuff based on the book because they wouldn't have the full idea of what the movie is going to be. And obviously, the Duchess and the Cook are like iconic Alice characters. It just so happens that Disney did not end up using them. So
Yeah.
it was interesting that they were in this, and this is promoting the Disney version, but they're not in the Disney version.
I think it's also a mix of they didn't know. So like even though it's premiere of the soundtrack, it's actually we know having seen the movie, it's not the full soundtrack. There are songs that are not represented,
Yeah.
and I think they use the jazz version of Jabberwocky quite a lot in this. So I don't think they were full like I don't think the Fred Waring show was fully aware of what was actually in the movie or not. They were just kind of going off what Disney gave them.
Was Jabberwocky at one point supposed to be a jazz number in the Disney version?
Oh yeah, I was. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Because I just
Yeah,
assumed that they were just putting their own little spin on it.
no. There was supposed to be a whole Jabberwocky sequence, and that's essentially they wanted the poem put to music. So they had a few different versions. The final was this kind of like jazz version, but it wasn't fitting into the pace of the story, so they took it out. But they still wanted the poem, so they gave it to the Cheshire Cat, and that's why he
Hmm.
has that bit, which
Yeah.
you do see in this, but they really emphasized the Jabberwocky jazz tune. And I think the Fred Waring show like got like this, they got the music and they were like, oh, the Jabberwocky's probably going to be in it, so we're going to have a Jabberwocky character and the Beamish boy
Hmm.
uh to slay him. It's none that doesn't happen in the Disney Alice. I think what's also curious in this, which you don't see in a lot of Alice's that are actually trying to adapt the story, is they have three queens: the Queen of Hearts, the White Queen, and the Red Queen, which is pretty funny.
I don't think I even noticed the queens. I
Yeah,
mean,
at
I
one
noticed
point,
a queen, but I didn't notice there was more than one. There was a lot of background characters, so wasn't picking them all out.
yeah, at one point the Red and White Queen are like leaning against each other, sleeping,
Oh,
and
okay.
one of them would bop their head up to say a line, the other one would do it the next line, and Alice goes between the two. And I think it's a reference to the part of in the Looking Glass where
Yeah.
Alice is, with the queens when they fall asleep.
Hmm.
Stuff like that, just kind of very book stuff because that's all they had to go off of.
Yeah.
They didn't know the movie yet. Oh, another thing about Jabberwocky is I wrote this down. when they talk about the poem later with the mirror and stuff. They actually call Jabberwocky a language, and I thought that was really interesting. Because it's not a language, but maybe it should be. I would like to speak Jabberwocky.
Are you gonna give somebody ideas and then they can get back to you? What do you want the writing system to look like?
I think it should still play with like reversed writing, like in the Looking Glass book.
But more like decorative or like rune scratches, or what are we going for here?
I think decorative would be nice, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
more Victorian.
yeah, that's what I would do. I say, having not developed a language, but yeah, do you develop languages or like writing systems?
Me?
Yeah.
Is there money to be made?
Uh, the way you asked that, I was wondering like if you had done that kind of thing before.
Thanks. I feel like all you need for Jabberwocky is to hold whatever you've written up in your fancy script to a mirror, and then that's your Jabberwocky.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So then you take a picture of that and you destroy what you've written so that you have it for That would be a skill if you were very good at writing words backwards without having to think about every little thing.
I just thinking about it. I do know someone who could do that, so maybe maybe I'll ask him. Um,
Mm.
but anyway, so
The only other thing we really didn't talk about was apparently the sets were by Mary Blair because they
oh
specifically
yeah,
thanked her.
they thanked her quite a few times.
Yeah.
Okay,
Really big deal, apparently.
here's another thing. I feel like it was the last one that we watched together that we talked about first tonight, where there were these drawings for Alice in Wonderland that were not the final style, but the art style was adorable. Did Mary Blair do those?
I don't know. I'd have to see it, I think, again.
It's like she had these little round eyes.
Yeah, it was the drawings in Operation Wonderland. Yeah, we didn't
Uh,
mention that, but we did wonder about that particular Alice design. I assume that it was Mary Blair, but I don't know that for sure.
I'd have to look at it again, but like there's a pretty big chance it was probably Mary Blair because she would do minimalized styles.
Hmm.
Because sometimes it was more about the colors of a piece than it was about like the actual character and the character's just there.
Yeah.
She actually experimented quite a lot with like different styles of how she did her characters. And Alice was one of them. She did quite a few different styles for Alice. Not, because it wasn't really about what Alice would actually look like in the film. It was more about how she would look in the environment, I guess to say.
Mm.
So Mary Blair did a great job on the sets for this. I kind of wonder who was responsible for I assume it was her who was responsible for the idea of putting the Cheshire Cat in like a standout with the head missing so Sterling could be there. Kind of wonder if that was her idea. Seems like her, but I don't know.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, I say like it seems like her, but I don't actually know that much about her to be honest. But she was very, very talented, obviously.
Yeah.
Gorgeous work. I would actually like to see a film like actually animated Mary Blair style. I think would be cool.
Yeah. I think I was talking to Katie about that because we talked about the reveals from D23 and the stuff for Frozen 3. Like it's only one piece of art, but it was like it like other people were saying Ivan Earl, but I thought it looked very Mary Blair.
I had to look at it.
Maybe it was like a combination of the two, but I was like, I just wish that it would look like this because you know it's not going to in the final production. But it was just it had her vibe. I just really liked the look of it, and you just know that that's not going to be in the final film.
I think you're right. I'm looking at it. It's a combination of Mary Blair and the Sleeping Beauty dude. I forget his name.
Ivan
You
Earl.
just said it.
Yeah,
Ivan Earl. I think it's a combo. Like it's her colors with his style.
yeah,
But yeah, there's so especially like Golden Age Disney animation. There's such beautiful concept art that I feel like I would love to see the concept art moving
yeah.
like a film.
I feel like that with so many movies.
Yeah, and I feel like Mary Blair would be a great style to see that with because
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things where I don't think Mary Blair's style fully came across with cell animation probably. I feel like she probably would do better with digital animation. So
Mm.
that's something I would like to see. like not just like because the Disney films I ended up using her work was more about again the colors and the environments and what they would look like rather than like the characters.
Hmm.
So I'd like to see it like all full circle with the characters design as well.
Yeah.
So it was probably her.
Yeah, I really I thought at the end the In a World of My Own song, I thought the line they alter it a little bit. You know, things a child can understand. It's I don't know, it's a very pretty line. I kind of wonder why they did it that way, if it's because it turned into a choir song instead of a solo song like it's meant to be in the movie. I guess that's the point to talk about line alterations in general with these songs in this promotional material, like the Very Merry and Birthday, you get the Merry Very Birthday to us, to all.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. That I wondered if it was the Fred Waring show taking creative liberty, or if these were earlier versions of the songs, or shorter or longer versions of what became short songs for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know about the things the child can understand, but I do know that it appears the A Very Merry and Birthday additional verses, I guess for lack of a better word, were Disney because these lyrics actually pop up in other versions over time.
I thought that they sounded familiar,
Yeah,
but I knew they were not from the movie.
yeah, but this is where they quote unquote premiered too, was these alternate lyrics.
Hmm.
But like when I became very familiar with the alternate lyrics was one of the DVD releases had like a those old DVD games, and it had like a Mad Tea Party with a live action Alice and Mad Hatter and like three kids, and they do A Very Merry and Birthday, and it includes these alternate lyrics or
Hmm.
additional lyrics, and that was like my first time that I've been exposed to them, which is a fun thing to watch if you're ever into that. And I think it's also in a lot of songbooks. I think it's in Alice in Wonderland Junior as well. So it pops up. I'm not sure why they wrote these. Maybe some of them were supposed to be included in the film and they just decided, nah. Yeah, I just really, really nice production. I liked it. I always enjoy watching it again.
And it was sweet. Good to see Sterling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sterling and Catherine. I really liked them together. I'm glad that they were
You mean
chosen
Alice
to
and
do this.
Sterling
Yes.
or Kathy and the cat?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a good title right there.
It does actually. That could be a children's book.
Mm.
Ooh.
Are you into writing? I could do the illustrations. And we'll make millions of dollars and we won't have to worry about anything ever again.
Oh boy. Um, I do dabble in writing, but I always have a hard time like coming up with an idea and like going through with it to the end with finishing it.
Mm.
It is storytelling eludes me, but maybe I'll think about it. Like, what would be so special about a cat?
What's not special about a cat?
You're right.
You know,
You're right.
you're talking to a cat fanatic because
I grew up more with dogs, but I do like cats too. One day I might like a void cat. I like black cats. I just like how they disappear into blackness and you just see the eyes. I want that,
they're considered good luck in Japan. So if anybody,
as they should
That's
be.
so random. I was just watching a compilation of people who like taken videos of their cats just blending into something black, and then they like blink, and then suddenly you can see there was a cat there.
Yeah, I want that in my life. I just want to open like a cupboard and the cat's there, it's staring at me with a big eye. It's like, oh, hello.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Well, on that note, I think we've finished
Yeah.
all we have to say about all of these Alice specials.
Pizza and black cats and Coca-Cola.
And we
Hallmark
went on a
movies.
journey. We got some food. We picked up a pet along the way. So yeah, and you finally finished Disney Alice,
For now.
Is there
unless you wanted
more?
to do that DVD game.
Well, I'm still thinking of the Once Upon a Time that we haven't done yet, but
Oh
we
no. I forgot about that. Oh gosh. Okay.
That'll be a huge project for later. I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah, I might have to wait till after Christmas at this point.
I don't think we'll get to that this year. At one point, I thought maybe we would, but that's
Yeah.
a lot. So maybe next year.
Well, maybe we could get started, I suppose. Or maybe not. I don't know. Whatever.
There's too many Alices.
There's too many.
We've done so
But
many Disney
also,
this year that maybe we should take a break from Disney and talk about some non-Disney Alice.
yeah, when does Disney Alice end?
I don't know. They'll probably do something else and then well, they did do something else because they did that Descendants movie with the Red Queen's
Oh my
daughter or
gosh.
whatever.
Yeah, now I have to watch that, and I'm like, no, I don't want to.
You don't have to.
I have to. I actually have quite a list of Alice things I need to catch up on, and that's one of them. Not looking forward to it.
After what the deaf man heard and some nice pizza.
Sorry, what?
After what the deaf man heard and some nice pizza.
Oh yeah, honestly, those are more on top of my list.
That and finding a local shelter near you with black cats.
Yes.
Anyway.
Are we done yet? Or are we still recording?
Well, we'll be back in the future with more Alice. Probably not Disney right away, but until
was she asking whether we're done with this podcast or done with Disney Alice? Or both?
Apparently not. There's still Once Upon a Time and Descendants. You'll never be free, Jonathan.
Alice is eternal.
Well, Disney Alice is eternal.
That too.
They just won't leave the story alone.
Well, until the next time, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they would like more from you, Jenna?
Oh, yes. I am Phantomwise on YouTube and Love Gift of a Fairy Tale on YouTube as well.
And Sarah?
I am Turnip Wilson on Redbubble, like the vegetable, and like that neighbor on on Home Improvement that you never saw.
Oh, Home Improvement.
Yes, whimsical and realistic watercolor art. All right, thank you.
Okay, well, see you next time.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Good to talk to you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My Linktree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.
Through the looking glass into Wonderland.